how big the business is today.
Almost gonna be touching 100 crore run rate now.
If I had to start my own restaurant, how do I do that?
70% of restaurants shut down within 2 years.
How many cities is the coverage right now?
We are in fact going international. All of these three together control 50% of India's organized food retail business.
How much capital do I need?
1 crore 50 lakhs.
Can money in, it's not working. What do I do then?
A lot of people didn't know what classic North Indian cuisine is all about.
I think we've covered the entire playbook of starting our own restaurant. Welcome to Launch Codes, my Masters Union. In today's episode, we are going to understand how to start our own restaurant. And to talk about that and give us all the knowledge, we have none other than Mr. Amit Bagga, who's the co-founder and CEO of Daryaganj Hospitality, a restaurant chain known for its amazing, mouth-watering North Indian food. Thank you so much, Amit, for joining us.
My pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad to be hosting you. As a Punjabi North Indian, I just love your food. And every time, I've walked in, every time we see your food, I wonder how to build my own. Because, every person's dream is to maybe feed other people with great food. And the best thing that you're doing is doing that for so many millions of people. The objective today is to understand that if I had to start my own restaurant, how do I do that? And I want to learn all about this business. Where I want to start, and I'd love to understand from you, is that we see Daryaganj in so many places these days. Can you talk us through how big the business is today and how you got here?
Surely. It's great to be here. And the first thing I want to start with is that restaurant business is something which a lot of people want to get into, but it's a very tough business to get into. And so you have to have a very strong passion towards this if you really want to be successful. Because if you have that passion, then you will have the perseverance to go through all the challenges which come up in a restaurant business, which is the most challenging business.
Absolutely.
Actually. It looks very glamorous, but it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifices if you want to be in this business. So that's one thing I'm going to say for sure. So we started Daryaganj in 2019. Mm-hmm. It was 2019 April when we started Daryaganj. In fact, we got a setback in 2020 before even our first anniversary, COVID happened. Yeah. But anyways, so when we started in 2019, we started in one location in Delhi, which is Aerocity. And in fact, that time when I was signing Aerocity, a lot of people were skeptical whether this location is going to come up as a good development or not. But it actually did, and it was a great. I think it was a good move from our side because we got a very good spot there, and we started our first Daryaganj there. So before, the first Daryaganj started in April 2019. Then the second, touchwood, it was a runaway success. In the first month itself, we were profitable. Mm-hmm. And there used to be queues outside. In fact, I remember standing outside, there were 30, 40, 50 people waiting for a table. And we were actually serving them, like nimbu pani, chai, and, so that because they were waiting for a table. And in fact, one day I was standing there and all of them, a lot of people came up to me and said, why don't you open more restaurants? Just one restaurant is not enough. We have 50 people waiting outside. Yeah. I said, yes. So it came out of the need from the customer, actually, that, there should be more Daryaganj, sooner than I thought I would open more. But anyways, no, we all over and ahead of COVID, and I think a lot of things I learned during that time, and it really was a great learning. But we opened, so that 1.5, 2 years after we, from that COVID time was very slow, that we could not grow much. We were actually stabilizing, we were opening the stores again, but we actually, we were back to our pre-COVID revenue within 6 months of, opening again. And then we started signing a few more stores as well. One great thing which came out of COVID for us was delivery. So before COVID, we never actually ever wanted to get into delivery as a business, And so delivery was a need or the need of the hour that time. We started that. And then we opened a few cloud kitchens. So today now, as we speak today, we have about 15 outlets. We have about 10 CDR, the casual dining restaurant stores, which is a dining restaurant. Sure. And we do delivery as well from there. And there are dedicated 5 cloud kitchens, which are only focused on delivery. So, amazing. And these 15 stores are operational now, and 5 more coming up in this financial year. So awesome. By March, we will be at 20 stores.
That is lovely. What is the total revenue?
So we are almost going to be touching 100 crore run rate now. And this financial year, it's going to be a great milestone for us of touching 100 crore ARR. Yeah.
Lovely. No, congratulations. That is huge. What is the footfall in a particular year? Matlab, I know that's a large number,
Yeah.
but just to get a sense of size of number of unique customers, what are they like?
So I'll tell you, for us, in all our outlets within in these, so we have it's been what 5.5 years now since we opened, keeping us including 1.5 years of disruptions of COVID, but we almost served now 2 million customers, so 2 million diners, so almost 20 lakh people we've served
20
till now.
lakh.
So, and we actually have a very high customer turnaround. We call it the table turnarounds.
Yes.
So our table turnaround is very high, and almost 2.5 table turnarounds. So that
Per
means
hour?
no, per day. So
Per
what
day.
it means
Okay.
is 2.5 turnarounds means, for example, one lunch, one dinner, another half coming up more.
Okay.
So just like that. So 2.5 turnarounds. And this is an average. So on a weekend, we end up doing 4 turnarounds, 5 turnarounds. On a weekday, we do 1.5 turnarounds or 2 turnarounds. So average outs at 2.5 turnarounds. So we have about, like I said, 10 CDR stores, which are dining stores. We would have about 700 seats in total between all of them. And if you talk about 2.5 turnarounds, that makes it 2,100 average customers. And our average ticket size, or we call it the APC, average per cover, is about 1,000 rupees. And so that takes it to 21 lakh revenue a day from the dine-in business. And there's a delivery business which is separate.
Brilliant. Those are some staggering numbers. I
And
love it.
so that's about, this comes to about, about 7 crores or so through our dine-in business, and another 1.5 crore comes from a delivery business. That takes it to the 100 crore.
200 mark.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is very, very helpful. Gives us a sense of the broad scale of the business. Can you also quickly touch upon the margins?
So in a restaurant business like ours, which is in the segment we are in, the casual dining restaurant segment. In fact, we touch 2 segments. You
Yes.
know, I want to explain one thing in our business. So out of our whole pie, there's about 27% of the business is delivery. But out of the 27%, 15% is from the restaurant, the delivery from the restaurants, and 12% is from the cloud kitchens. So cloud kitchen business is only delivery centric. So obviously there's margins there are usually lower than a dine-in restaurant. The reason is that in a restaurant, which is a dine-in restaurant, there is, there's beverages, there's liquor as well. Sometimes there's the items which are more higher margin, sell more in a restaurant, which is a dine-in restaurant. And a delivery restaurant is, is a set menu. So that's why the margins usually on an outlet level EBITDA, which we look at in a CDR business, usually ranges between 20 to 30%. For us, we are almost at 24%.
Got it.
And ranges between 10 to 20%. I'm giving a very broad range because it depends on what your price point is and all of those factors. So, but we are at somewhere around 19% on our cloud kitchen business.
Got it. Awesome. That is very, very helpful. I think it paints a clear picture about the size and scale of the massive business you've built.
Right.
Congratulations. And
Thank
we
you.
can't wait
Thank
for
you.
this it's expanding globally now. So
Yes.
we can't wait for it. How many cities is the coverage right now?
So as of now, we are in Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, which I consider 3 different cities actually.
It is.
And we are also in Punjab and Ludhiana.
Got it.
So these 4 cities we are in as of now. And next month, we are in fact going international. We are opening an international store in Bangkok.
Congratulations.
Thank
in
you,
Bangkok.
Thank you, yeah. And then we are also opening another one in Punjab, which is in Mohali. And then we've also signed another store in Mumbai. And Mumbai will be opening as well next year. So I would say we are right now in 4 cities. We'll be adding 3 more cities in the next few months. And then further, we plan to get into Bangalore as well. And one thing I would like to say that, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. And I would say Delhi, NCR, Bombay region, which includes Navi Mumbai and all of those surrounding satellite towns as well. And then Bangalore. All of these 3 together control 50% of India's organized food retail business.
Oh, wow.
So which is, so imagine these 3 regions covering 50% of the market. So that's why we as a brand have decided to focus in India on these three regions. Delhi, we have become very strong now, and we're opening a few more in Delhi as well. Delhi still has a lot of scope more. Bombay, we are entering in the next few months. Plus, we are looking for the right location in Bangalore as well to enter. And I think that will be the focus. These three cities, and maybe get into Hyderabad as well. But I think these are the 3-4 key cities which we want to focus on. Maybe after we've exhausted all of these best locations there, we'll think about tier 2 and getting into other cities as well.
Got it. No, this is very helpful. So 4 cities, 10 CDRs, 700 people, 700 seats, total revenue of almost 100 crores, business broken down into CDR, delivery, and markets that you're focusing on. Amazing. I think this is a great start, and by now we've understood how large the business is. I now want to understand, if I had to start from scratch, right? I'm starting my first restaurant. I like, let's say, I like food. I have a thesis. I want to start in some particular cuisine.
Right.
How do I get started? And in this, the most important question that everybody asks is how much capital, how large should it be? So if you can give us a playbook on what the starting components of a restaurant are, I think that'll be very helpful, Amit.
So I feel the restaurant business is a very tough business. So it looks very, very glamorous, but everyone needs to understand that it is, if you just say passionate about cooking, you like to serve people, you like to go out and, you like to try different cuisines, that is not just the only criteria why you should be starting getting into the restaurant business. Yeah. See, a restaurant business has the highest rate of failure. They say that, it's not even, it's like a very, very known norm all over the world that about 70% of restaurants shut down within 2 years of opening. So the only 30% survive, and out of that 30%, I would say only maybe less than 10% would be very, very successful. So it's a very high rate of failure. And also, there's no entry barriers. That's why anyone can enter into it. Yeah. So that's also one problem. Then, for example, it could be a new player coming in the market and paying double the salary of what you're paying your guy. The guy was obviously moved there. So but then ultimately he's not gonna survive for too long, but it'll hamper your business. Yeah. So there's no entry barrier here. Right. And so, in fact, this is what I'm talking about is for the CDR, with the casual dining restaurant business. But even in the cloud kitchens, the rate is even higher. It could be even 90%, So we have to be very careful on, to know that the risks are high in this business. So I will always tell everyone that, if the only reason why you want to get into the restaurant business, it should be because if you have a strong passion for it. You have really love to do that business, you're ready to sacrifice, you can give, you can work on weekends, you can work 12, 14 hours a day, you are ready to sacrifice all of your luxuries. If you can do that, think about doing it, otherwise do not. Because it looks very easy. So you can be an investor in a restaurant business and enjoy it. That's something else. Obviously, restaurant has risks, but you can enjoy it there. But don't think of, doing it yourself and, enjoying the business also. Then you'll have to really work hard.
Yeah.
So I feel that, because the reason I'm saying passion is because the restaurant business has a lot of challenges. It looks, for example, starting from government regulations, you have to get so many licenses to operate. It's not easy to get licenses. Sometimes they get stuck into those, norms and regulations. And I've in fact heard of so many restaurants starting, building a restaurant, getting it ready and realizing, oh, this property was not even a commercial property. Yeah. Or it wasn't something where you can get a license for a liquor license. It's 100 meters within a school or a religious place, you can't get a license. The rule says you can't get a license. Yeah. A lot of people don't do the proper research and just get into it. So that's one more thing that you have to be very careful. And also there's challenges in terms of manpower. There's a very high attrition rate. So I'm not discouraging everyone. I'm just telling you the major challenges which are there, which is the regulatory challenges. Then, there's things like the manpower challenges. So be very careful about that.
Absolutely.
So now coming to, if you are passionate and you are, you're daring enough to go and take that plunge, then the first thing you have to think about is, first of all, what is the kind of segment you want to get into? So, so in India, let's broadly divide the segments. So I would say one segment is cloud kitchens, which is focused only on deliveries. Then one class segment, next segment, which was, and this is only, and then one segment which we call it is the QSR, quick service restaurant. So that will cover brands like your KFC, Pizza Hut, Subway. And how do we call it QSRs? What defines it as QSR? QSR means, as it says, the word says quick service. So anything which is served within 3 to 4 minutes, at the counter, and you have to pick it up yourself. That is quick service, and quick service is within 3 to 4 minutes of ordering the food, and that defines the QSR segment.
Got it.
And so the cloud kitchen is so one was cloud kitchen, then the QSR business, then comes the CDR business, casual dining restaurants. And these are, as the name suggests, the dining restaurant, where you go and sit down and dine, you order from the table, and you're served on the table.
Which is where you are primarily.
Yeah, we are here. So the CDR also has another segment, which is we call the premium CDR. PCDR, we can call it. A premium CDR, within the CDR segment. And I'll give you the price points as well after that. After the CDR, within one is the premium CDR within the CDR business. This one is the pub cafe lounges. That's also one more segment. Pub cafe lounges. So, and one more parallel segment on the top will be a cafe segment, like the coffee chains, and those kind of segments can come in as well, which can add as one of the apart from the three, and then the fifth one, which would broadly be would be a fine dining restaurant segment, which would be something like an Indian accent, for example. A very premium, high-end, fine dining restaurant.
How is this different to fine dining?
So I will tell you. I will divide these by price points.
Okay.
So the QSRs, usually the QSRs are somewhere, starting from even a 200, 300 ticket size per person, going up to 700. So that would be maybe the range, 300 to maybe 200 to a 700 segment. Average per cover, we call it. The average per person, to make it easier. So the average ticket size should be 200 to 700.
Okay.
If you go to the CDR, in that CDR segment where we are in, we are at about 900 to 1,000 rupees segment. So between the 700 to 1,000, 1,200, 1,100. So I would say the 700, starting from the 700 to 1,000, 1,200 would be where we are in that CDR, the top one, the CDR business. Yeah, and the pubs cafe also can be similar segment.
Got it.
The premium CDRs would be somewhere maybe 1,200 to going up to 1,600, 1,700 per person.
Okay.
Then cafes usually are within that. The segment of cafes and usually between there's no proper range. I would say 200 to about 1,000 or so, the cafe segment.
Got it.
It can go up to that much. The fine dining is where above the PCDR, from 1,600 to 1,800 rupees to going up to say 3,000, 4,000 rupees. There's no end to it. It's a 4,000, 5,000, 1,800 plus. And cloud, I will say, would not define it by segment, but it will be mix of all these segments together. This is broadly the market,
Right.
So in this, we have to first realize and decide which segment you want to get into.
Absolutely.
And now I'll tell you, everyone might say, oh, let's get into the QSR or the cloud business because the ticket size will be low to open a one outlet. But actually, the reality is something totally the opposite. Because if you want to get into the QSR and cloud business, you will not make profits unless you have a scale. So what you could still do is to open any of these, which would be CDRs, so I'll tell you, a QSR and a cloud business being usually has to be very fast service. So the food cannot be cooked from scratch there.
Yeah.
The products cannot be cooked from scratch.
Usually
Most of them have to come
reheated.
from a back end or not heated. There can be a lot of final cooking or different things can happen. But it will need some kind of a back end support. Where things will get cooked, made in bulk, and they'll be coming to the outlet, and within few minutes it has to be served with the the way whatever way it is. So that ways QSRs and clouds will need a scale to reach profitability, and they will need the back-end support. They will need a lot of and the segment being the price point being lower, the margins will also not come in unless you have the scale.
Sure.
So, but the CDR segment, which is where Daryaganj is, you can start with the one restaurant. That one restaurant can be start and then become and you can see what to do after that. And even the pub cafe CDR lounge segment, again you can start one separate restaurant there. Same for the PCDR and even a fine dining.
Sure.
But one thing I would like to say, one more thing apart from all of these segments, that the bars and pub CDRs again look very lucrative and they have high margins in the first few years, but after a few years they start falling. The sales start dropping because it's not a very loyal segment. So I would never suggest people to get into the pub cafe segment unless you have a good amount of capital and you take the risk and you're looking to it depends on your objective. If you want to build a chain of restaurants and make a brand which is scalable, then it's very tough to do a pub cafe segment, you know.
Sure.
So for one example is Social, which has been a very big exception in the market. There's a friend of mine, Riaz Amlani, who started that brand. He's a big exception in the market to have a chain of bars. Otherwise, then Rahul Singh, a good friend of mine, Beer Cafe, he's also done a great job in making a chain of bars.
Sure.
But if you look at, apart from these 2-3 chains, very few chains who have been, who've been chains, you know, in the pub segment. Then now, like I said, the QSRs have a lot of success stories all over the world.
Yes.
Then CDRs like Daryaganj, and there's a lot of other brands which can come in the same segment. Then cafes like the Starbucks and the Blue Tokais and all of those come. They've been big successes, you know.
Absolutely.
And then Cloud Kitchen, Rebel Foods is a big player in the market. It's one of the biggest cloud kitchen company in the world. Fine dining, I would say Indian accent. So these kind of segments, I'm giving examples so you understand, relate with what segments it is. So I mean, these. So if you start with one restaurant, you get the playbook right from there, then you decide to expand. Then I think this is the segment to get into, CDR, which is where we are, Daryaganj.
No, that's lovely. I think that really paints a strong picture of the market.
Yeah.
Let's say now I have decided that I want to build a CDR, right?
Yeah.
I want to open one restaurant.
Right.
How much capital do I need?
Okay, so a CDR, the size of the restaurant is also very,
Yes,
it depends on the size of the restaurant.
also.
So normally 50, see, I would say a CDR should not be less than 50-seater. 40, to be 49 to be exact if you're in Delhi, because 50-seater, above 50-seater, there's a different size, has an extra fee if you have more than 50 seats. So I would say 49-seater is the ideal number to start with. If you want to start with a minimum number, 49 seat, I would say,
49
to start a CDR.
Okay.
And it should not go above 100, I would say.
Okay.
Between the range of 50 to 100. In the beginning, you never know, how the business is. So because when we started Daryaganj, the first Aerocity one was 60-seater, you know. And I was like thinking, oh, I've not taken too many seats. But then I realized that, people are waiting outside every day.
Yeah.
But then I made sure, I made it a conscious decision that even if we've been so successful and we see so many queues outside our restaurants, we still will not be going towards more than 100-seater restaurants. We might have to do one exception here and there, but otherwise we don't want to go more than 100-seater.
50 to 100 seats.
50 to 100 seats. So if you have a 50-seater restaurant.
How much square feet would that be?
So 50-seater restaurant with a 600 square feet kitchen, I would say you need at least about 1,1700 square feet. 1,600 to, so you would need 1,600 square feet maybe if it's a mall, and maybe 200 square feet extra if you are in a high street location. So 1,600 to 1,800 is the minimum you should start with.
Okay.
And in this, and up to 100 if you talk about, and in 100 would be about 2,700 or so, 2,700 square feet, going up to that much.
For the purpose of the discussion, maybe let's keep it to a 50 seats.
Yeah.
And 1,600 to 800 square feet.
Right.
How much would that cost me to set up?
So in the capex, there's one part which is the deposit for the rental, which depends on whatever the rental is. So I won't cover that part. It depends. So if, for example, it's a 3 lakh rental or 4 lakh rental, usually the deposits are between 3 to 6 months. So it could be, it could vary. It could be 10 to, 3 lakhs and 3 months deposit is 9 lakhs, that ways. So I would keep that aside because I'm not sure what.
Beyond deposit?
Yeah. So leaving that aside, the capex on the restaurant. So the two major parts. One part is the interior fit out part. You know. That ranges from depending on how, what kind of a look and feel you want to give. It could, if you want to make it look very, very premium, or make it look very, little more. Depends on the kind of look and feel you want to give. So I would say it would be somewhere between 4,000 to 5,000 rupees a square feet. So I would say let's take it 5,000 because in India there's the GST is not we don't get an input of GST as an industry. So if say you build 4,000 plus GST, your cost is 4,000 plus GST. You cannot take the GST as an input somewhere. And the 18% GST applies there. So let's take it at 5,000 on the higher side.
5,000
and 1,800 square feet, so that's 90 lakhs there.
90 lakhs.
Plus another, so kitchen equipment.
That's just for the
fit out part.
Okay.
And then there is, like I said, this is the higher side. I would say it could
this is the higher
can be
side.
lower as well. Then there's kitchen equipments and other things, crockery, cutlery. There's a lot of many other things. So I would say all of that put together, another 60 to 70 lakhs. So I would say 1 crore 50 to 1 crore 60 lakhs. That's about minimum range, which I would say 1 crore 50 lakhs, I would say, excluding deposits. is what you should be looking at it to invest in a 1600 to 1800 square feet restaurant, you know.
But the rent also will be there, right? So the lease.
So rental is the operational expense. So I'm talking about the initial
so we're
capex.
talking about just the
rental
capex.
deposit.
Okay.
And so, like I said, in Delhi, you know, a good location will not come less than a good ground floor location will not come less than 300 rupees a square feet. And if you go to a higher floor, like a first or second floor, it can go down to 150 rupees a square feet as well. So it depends floor wise. You know, the highest, it depends on the ground floor will always be the most expensive, then going to first, second. I usually say start the first restaurant on the ground floor. It gives you more visibility. And even if you pay extra rent, that rent you can cover up by the footfall you get, the walk-in footfall you get from the ground floor. So if you take a ground floor 300 rupees a square feet and the space is about 1800 square feet, that's, let's take 5.4 lakhs as a rental.
Sure.
And the deposit say 4-month deposit, for example. So that's about, you know,
20 lakhs.
20 lakhs, 21 lakhs or so, 22 lakhs or so, plus that 160. So that 180 is a number we should look at. So I would say, so with 170 it comes to,
Yes.
what is coming to, what's 170 or so. That's what you should look at minimum. But wait a second. Everyone thinks, this is all I need. No. You need to keep, because a restaurant sometimes doesn't take off in the first 6 months, where you have operational losses. You need to pay
cost,
salaries, you need to pay
admin costs.
I mean, there's so much of, so because a restaurant to reach a break-even point is usually, a good brand can reach in second, third month, but it takes time sometimes.
Sure.
Could be even 6 months. But one thing is that after 6 months, if a restaurant doesn't take off, it's also very tough to take off after that. So, but you still
Which is
need
when you're in the figure
still need to keep a good amount of, from your overall investment, keep at least 20% aside for just as a backup to, fill up, say maybe any operational losses. So I would say keep another 30 lakh rupees for that, so 2 crores. That's the minimum ticket size. So now I know people will be thinking that's a very big ticket size, 2 crores to start a business. But for a casual dining restaurant segment business,
it costs that
I think this is the number which is realistic. I think you could still save by a lot of optimization, but it will not go anywhere less than 150 or between. It has to be between that
1.5 to
2 crore number.
What is the payback usually for such a restaurant?
So a restaurant which does well and starts,
let's assume it's doing well.
It picks up in the first 3-4 months and starts giving you, say, maybe, so if you have invested whatever amount you've invested, you're getting about, say, 25 to 30% return of your investment every year. That, if you calculate that way, is 30% return. If say maybe let's say you're getting 33% return a year, in 3 years you get the money back. In a way.
Got it.
That way you can look at it, if you don't count the interest cost of your capital. So that's one thing.
Got it.
And a lot of entrepreneurs or founders who are working and starting their brands themselves, in the beginning, you don't want to put your own salaries. But at some point of time, after some time, you have to calculate your own costs as well,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think so. We're simplifying maths in a very, very broad range. This is very nuanced, I'm sure. But the summary is that if you want to start a 50-seater restaurant, which it should be, you need 1600 to 1800 square feet, preferably in a ground floor, for which you will have to pay 90 lakhs for interiors, fit-outs, etc. You will have to pay 20 lakhs for deposit, this 60 lakhs for additional expenses for inventory, etc.
Equipments and everything.
Equipments. And you need to ensure that the rental was at 300 square feet. So you need about 1.7 crores and you need this 30 lakhs.
30 lakhs are the backup for,
As a backup.
And I would say that where you can really save money is this 90 lakhs. This can go up down to 60 also, depending on how you do the interiors. You could smartly do the interiors, save money there, what kind of materials you use. That is where the real scope lies to save, that money there.
Got it. No, perfect. I think this really summarizes it well and helps us understand how to get started. Do you have any insights on what Cuisine?
Okay. Yeah, so I'll tell you, when my story was, the backstory was that before I started Daryaganj, I was into more of bar and pub segments. But I realized those segments don't last for too long. The loyalty factor is very less.
Sure.
So I said, so one thing which I decided that I will only focus on family dining restaurants because they have the most loyal clientele. So everyone here would have, you would have think of any restaurant which you have gone to recently, which you were going as a kid as well with your family. There would still be so many restaurants you still, go to where you had gone as a kid with your family, and those still exist.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't happen usually for bars and pubs. Very few exist for a long time. So I realized that's the loyal segment. So let's focus on a family dining segment. And now coming to cuisine. Cuisine, now when we start, I'm going to give you my example. When I was starting Daryaganj, I said, okay, I decided I'm going to focus on North Indian cuisine, which is one of the biggest segment in India. About 27-28% of the market is North Indian. Then second comes Asian Chinese. Asian Chinese doesn't mean authentic Chinese. It can be Desi Chinese also. That would be about second segment, about 18-19%. Then another, then pizza is a big segment already because of, Domino's coming in. And so that's a, that segment, pizza segment is almost 18-20% would be that segment, I think. And then there is other South Indian, regional, a lot of different segments are there. There are two ways of doing it. Wherever you want to open. Number one, say you want to open in Delhi. It depends on where you want to open the restaurant. So if you want to open in Delhi, you want to open in Bombay, where you want to open. So there are two parallel ways of looking at it. One thing was, okay, I go to Bombay, I open a North Indian restaurant because there is no good North Indian restaurant there. One direction is that.
Yeah.
There's another direction which we took. I mean, I personally took that risk and took that challenge that I'll say, okay, I go to Delhi, which is the capital of Butter Chicken Dal Makhani in the world, the biggest known place for North Indian food, and I will open a North Indian restaurant there. I mean, everyone, actually were like, had actually written me off. They said, how are you going to do that? You're the capital of North Indian cuisine. So now I'll tell you my thought behind that, and maybe that would help people to understand. So when I was thinking about it, it actually came out of my own personal need. I'm a big lover of North Indian food. Since I was born and brought up in Delhi, Punjabi family, I love my butter chicken, tandoori chicken, dal makhani. I love that food, Yeah. So I realized that what is happening now in Delhi, that time about 6 years back, I realized what is happening is either you get that real good North Indian food in maybe those dhabas and, those nice, mom and pop shows, but they are not organized. They don't want to get into become a chain. Or you were getting that in 5-star hotels. Yeah. There was a sweet spot, I thought, which is that 1,000 rupees spot. So like a dhaba would have been 600-700 rupees per person, or a high-end restaurant would have been 1,800-1,900 rupees a person. Somewhere in the middle, that 1,000 rupees sweet spot was lying vacant, I thought. Was where people who are eating at that 700 segment can upgrade. Yeah. And the ones who get spending 1,700-1,800, they get better value for money at that. So we capture both segments.
Sure.
So I said, okay, and I felt that North Indian food in there, the way I have had it as a kid and the way I experienced it and the way I felt it should be served, I felt that not only maybe 1 or 2% were doing it. So then when everyone said there's a huge number of restaurants as a competition for you, I said I see very less competition because my competition is of certain level where I want to be and I feel only few people are there. So that was my thought, and that's how I started. So one thing is either you find a gap that this cuisine or this thing is not very well available in this market, and I can come and serve it here and give them and fill the gap. Or second is that you look at something which is classic and going for a long time and it's not being innovated for some time and get into it and innovate. So like I said, North Indian restaurant brands were not innovating that time. Either there were brands which are coming, fusion, modern Indian. But what about classic North Indian food? No one was focusing on that brand. Today, I'm actually very happy to say that we have so many North Indian brands coming up in the classic North Indian segment. And I feel that somehow I started that trend, when we started Daryaganj. And a lot of people have actually told me that we were inspired by your journey, that, you started Daryaganj and we saw people actually going to come and have North Indian food. That's why we started the brands,
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So these two directions. Or there's something which is something very unique you want to do, which you feel can change the market. So it has to be something which, you really believe in, you're really passionate about, and you feel, and obviously it cannot be just from a gut feeling. It has to be backed with data. So when I thought about that, then I did a lot of research. Like I said, the segments, what is the size of the market, what is the average per person you want to target. So now, then you have to start calculating backwards. So if I'm investing, say, and then I realize, okay, I have to invest 2 crores. What is going to be my profit or going to be my payback period? Sure. And then I have to start working backwards.
अभी हमने समझ लिया कि start करने के लिए क्या चाहिए.
Right.
Now we'll understand how to run it also.
Later.
So we'll come to that segment after this. But to summarize, I think we have the capital we need, कितना size होना चाहिए, how many people are we targeting, what is the payback period if it is successful, knowing that there is a high failure rate in what you end up doing as a restaurant.
3 years.
And cuisine and right to win, which is that या तो gap identify करो or innovate or do something very, very unique, and what the retail should be.
Right.
Awesome. Now that we have understood how to get started from a capital perspective, planning perspective, let's get to how do we actually get the people in and what their experience will be. Because it's all about the customer, especially in a food business, right? So if we can understand, how do you build a restaurant inside? Like, what is the design component? What is the menu like? What is the taste like? Who is the chef? What are the dishes on the menu? I think that will be really, really helpful, Amit. And we all know that everybody raves about the taste of the butter chicken, the taste of the dal makhani, the great interiors at your restaurants, the great music. So if you can give us the recipe, that now that I know मेरे पास 2 crore है, I'm going to get started. मेरे पास मैंने land ले लिया एक mall में, let's say rent दे दिया है, right? How do I now figure out the next steps? This is what you want to cover.
Okay, so I would say one thing that first, before you even go and sign a property, you should be ready with the concept. So, anyways,
ठीक है.
so the point is that when you're thinking of when you decided on everything that you want to do, this cuisine or whatever, then next thing is the name of the restaurant. So you have to make the name very catchy, and ideally, what I always say, a good story around that restaurant. The name should be some story, whatever cuisine you're doing, some story around it, something which can, create curiosity for the customers. Like for us, when we started Daryaganj, it was by the inventors of Butter Chicken Dal Makhani.
Yeah.
It creates, curiosity. Some people believe it, some people say we will not believe it, but still they will be interested to know what this is. So the name should create some curiosity, and I always call myself a storyteller. So I think storytelling is very important for a new brand you start, because ultimately there's so many people giving great food, great interiors, but how do you stand out? So it's not that now the standards are very high, everyone can give a great product, but now how do you stand out with a great story? So that's one thing very important, I would say.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's thinking of opening a new brand. And then the next point, which I feel, now it's what I call it, what gives you that X factor when you open a new restaurant. I call it the 5 senses. The 5 senses is, for us, 5 senses from a customer's point of view are the most important. So think of yourself as a customer. There have been so many places you would have gone to where you would say, oh, vibe was great, a vibe was not great. If you decode that vibe, it comes to these 5 senses.
Yes.
So, some things we consciously see, some things we subconsciously see. So when you enter a restaurant, the first thing is what you see, the interiors and everything, which you were the question you asked for. I'll stop here and explain that to you. The interiors have to be very inviting. They have to be they cannot be too flashy also. They should not intimidate you. Should be something which is very, very warm and something which people can relate to. So that's one thing. The interior, what you see. Like the restaurant interior should also tell your story, whatever your story of your brand is. Like for us, it tells a story through retro elements and everything. Then when you sit down on the table, whatever you touch, from the crockery, cutlery, the table, all the materials have also been carefully selected. Plus, touch is also how the team interacts with you, how the servers who are serving there are interacting with you. And now that comes to the people. So you have to really choose the people very, very, very carefully. So as in a new restaurant, you need to have a very good top chef, a restaurant chef. Someone who has experience of working in restaurants before, who can tell you what is the right pricing for this product, what is the right food cost for this product, all of that, And we do extensive trials before we start a restaurant. Before Daryaganj started, we did 3 months of extensive trials of the menu. Then we decide, okay, this is the taste, this is the final thing we want to give. We standardize the recipe, and the same recipe has to be trained to the guys to serve. So that's very important, the chef, then the servers, then the managers. The manager you hire has to be someone who's very experienced, who can, who can build that team for you, train the team for you, how to give that. So the culture is very important, the right culture of customer-focused culture. That will really help. Don't go for people who are like experienced or educated. That doesn't matter. The attitude is the most important than these 2 factors. Someone the guys who can really focus on the customer. Sure. So that comes the sense of touch I've covered. Then comes the sense of sound, the music. I very carefully selected the music. Like Daryaganj has the playlist which is a younger singers singing older songs. So it appeals to all generations. Same ways, whatever your theme of your restaurant is, it should resonate through, that the music should resonate with that. Then the sense of smell. These two things which are something which people don't really notice much consciously, but subconsciously they do notice.
Absolutely.
The fragrance of there's a bakery, the kind of smell coming out of the bakery. It's a restaurant like Daryaganj that maybe the nice charcoal smell coming out of it. But what we did, we kept, because it's an Indian brand, we kept it. We created a fragrance which is a mix of Indian flower notes and the contemporary note, and that fragrance was a signature fragrance of Daryaganj. Anywhere you go, any Daryaganj restaurant, same fragrance is there. People actually started recognizing you with that fragrance, So that was fragrance for us. And then the most important fifth is sense of taste, which I was coming to. So sense of taste, the food, I feel, if you ask me a no-nonsense formula, comfort food is which works always. If you really don't want to experiment, don't want to play safe, comfort food. Anywhere, any cuisine, comfort food will always work, So that's what I would say, sense of taste is the most important. And that's what covers the 5 senses of the customer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amit. I think this is a very comprehensive guide to actually start any food business, especially a restaurant. I think one of the most important things is also, what do I serve, right? We've discussed कैसे present करना है, but if you can tell us what are the most selling items in Daryaganj, why customers buy it, and accordingly that will help me understand these are the things to optimize for in my menu. So that will be really helpful.
So as our name is Daryaganj, by the inventors of Butter Chicken and Dal Makhani, obviously our top 2 selling dishes is Butter Chicken and Dal Makhani. In fact, our top 5 dishes, starting in the order of Dal Makhani being number 1, Butter Chicken being number 2, then Butter Paneer, there is tandoori chicken, there is mutton curry, and then there is other things as well. So these 4-5 dishes is actually contribute to 50% of the food sales.
Oh wow.
So we have a total 60 dishes menu, and out of the 60 dishes, only 5%, so it's like 10% of your dishes contribute to 50% of your revenue. So it will always happen like that. Even if you start a new brand, somehow your 2, 3, 4 dishes will become, either they will be
star dishes.
Will become your star dishes, your hero dishes, and they will always, be the ones which sell the most. So that's, like a lot of brands, they don't even know what their niche is going to be. When they start with 30, 40 dishes, and one of those become very successful, and suddenly you're known for those 2 dishes. That happens. Yeah. So ultimately, what I always say is that when you're starting a brand, new restaurant, you do a very good extensive trial of all your dishes, then you decide, standardize and start them. But at the same time, you have to understand the least number of dishes you have on the menu will be easier to maintain the consistency and keep your cost also effective. So a CDR business, like we are 60 dishes being an Indian restaurant, but I still try to cut down dishes, which we can't, but I would say not go more than 45, 50 dishes, and as much as you can be less, it will be possible, better for you. In fact, internationally, no one does more than 30 dishes in CDRs. We in India, we give more variety. But if you have less dishes, you can better consistency or focus on those dishes then.
Awesome. That is really helpful. So start with a limited set, test it out, have good trials, and let the customer tell you which they like most.
Yeah, when you start a restaurant, you can have maybe 70, 80 dishes also. And you can see your data every few months, start cutting down the ones which are not selling at all, people are not liking it or whatever. Then okay, these are the ones which people are really liking, these are not liking. So then you can, kind of sit down and make after 6 months, then lock your menu. First 6 months, let's keep taking feedback.
Very nice.
Yeah.
6-month trial is a very helpful strategy.
See, trial is like something which you do before.
Yeah,
but 6 months
with your customer.
Yeah.
6 months of launch and then understanding trial and error to see what the customer is liking and not liking.
Right.
Awesome. This is very, very helpful. Can you, of course, like you said, 20 lakh customers, how do people, decide what to eat? What are the insights in saying that you have to get food right? This is ultimately a food business. So how do we get the food right?
It's that people think that, putting too many different ingredients and making dishes is something which is great. But I personally feel the least number of ingredients, keeping the food simple. In fact, even if you go to home style food, that is something people like the most in restaurants now. It's actually strange that, in restaurants, you like home style food, and in home you don't want to have restaurant food.
Yeah. Got it. No, but that's very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
But
One more thing I should say, which is very important for any kind of cuisine or any kind of restaurant, is the kind of ingredients you put into the food. For us,
Quality.
that quality of ingredients and the clean ingredients are very important.
Sure.
So ultimately people think that okay, customers will not come to know, but they will come to know you. If you're compromising on your ingredients, the next day they will not going to feel good about your food, and they will not going to come back for a few months. And the best thing about Daryaganj, the repeat rate is very high.
Yeah.
Why? Because our ingredients are such, they're not very, very strong. We keep the best quality of ingredients. I don't compromise on that. Because of that, the food comes out great. And it's not just about the taste after that. It's also what you feel after a few hours after consuming that food.
Absolutely.
And that's what people come back to me and say, we are surprised that we had North Indian food. And after a few hours, we're not feeling that the way we used to feel earlier. Having, that we are feeling heavy. Or feeling, we don't.
Bloated.
And that's what where you can win, the ingredients.
Awesome. Yeah, the ingredients create a better experience, which is what creates repeat. Very insightful. I think this is great. Awesome. Now that we've understood everything else, one of the crucial components of running the restaurant is the operating expense, right? Which feels very complicated because you need to have like food, you need to have people, you need to have the rent, right? So can you give us a picture of what the operating expenses are?
Let me draw it for you.
Awesome.
So considering this being a sale of 100, so there are three major expenses. So I would say one major expense is your, which is about 27%, is your food cost.
The main thing.
The cost of the ingredients and the raw materials. Another, I would say 3% is your packaging. So in fact, these two together, 30% we call the COGS, cost of goods sold. Yeah.
Got it.
So that's COGS. Then the next major expense is your manpower. My handwriting is not that great.
No, that's fine.
Manpower, which should be about 15%. It's a fixed expense, but it can keep, if your sale goes up, the percentage will go down because it's a fixed expense. Sure. This is a variable expense. It depends on your sale, So, and then another major expense would be somewhere, for us, it remains below 15, is the rental. And rental for, it's high for us because we have a lot of malls as well. So there's some extra costs in the malls. But ideally, it should be 12-13% in a high street location. So if you see, these are the major three expenses. Your food costs, your manpower, your rental. This covers major expenses now.
Right.
So now, and then next comes your, so we have about 7% or so going for commissions. And commissions are for aggregators, which could be Zomato, Swiggy, Easy Diner, Dine Out, all of these,
Zomato.
So both all of that together, it's for delivery and some dine-in as well. So commissions, which are going away. So I will tell them separately only. And then another two are left, which would be our utilities. Utilities, like this is your electricity, your water, water consumption, all of that,
Sure.
So this would be about 6%. And there's the last one, which is your operating supplies. So this could be like, your, things like the way as a restaurant we serve a kulfi with the packaging. A lot of different things which are used in a restaurant, like housekeeping material, a lot of other things. Operating supplies, 3%. So this, and then what we are left with is our EBITDA. This is our main thing what we work for. And I'm saying EBITDA is, as we know, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. But this is something, in a new business, this is a good indicator, EBITDA. That's why we look at it. But, that doesn't mean you're taking home 24%. There would be more, things coming up apart from that. But this is what, operationally, this is very important. So this is how you, for us, how we end up at a 24%.
Got it. This is what we're playing for as well, but this is very detailed and helpful. I think it covers everything. I probably quickly double click on manpower, Amit.
Yeah.
How do I get the right people in my door, right? Like the servers, the chefs. How many people do I need if I'm running a 50-seater restaurant?
So like I said, depends on the sitting. So like a 50-seater, we know there's say 12 tables. So we know there's 12 tables. So we make sections, okay, that every 3 tables are handled by three guys. So we know that, okay, 3, say we need say maybe 9-10 people on serving, okay. Then we need one like an assistant restaurant manager, one restaurant manager. So about 12 to 13 people in the what we call the front of the house who are interacting with the guests and serving them. So about 12 to 13 people in the front of the house. And then comes what we call the back of the house, the kitchen. There's a restaurant chef, there's an assistant restaurant chef, there's commie 1s, commie 2s, commie 3s. All of them are as per the level. So like the commie 1s will actually cook on the range. The commie 2s will do the preparation, the cutting. Commie 3 will be just supporting. So there's different levels with different things happening. So that would be about 15 to 17 of them.
Got it.
Yeah. And then what we have the last is the support staff. About 5 to 7 would be the support staff, who are the housekeeping guys who are cleaning the restaurant area in the front. They're also supporting in the back and cleaning the dishes in the back. We usually have a dishwashers, but still they are doing the basic stuff there. So in the beginning, when you start a restaurant, you need to have some extra people on board because there'll be churn. There'll be people will want to leave there on their own. You want to change. You also realize you don't need that many people. So keep that extra 20%.
Got it.
So that's what the manpower is.
Awesome. This is very helpful. But by the way, like, can this number at all grow? इसको बढ़ाने का क्या तरीका है?
देखो, one is an organic way, one is an inorganic way.
अच्छा.
Inorganic के price बढ़ा दो, so obviously your EBITDA is going to go up. But in a competitive market, you can't do that every time.
Right.
Some people can, but some people can't. So I would say inorganically, organically I would say, organically the way you can do it is, see, food cost is the most controllable. This is where you can really save money. What happens is, in this, you can make sure you have the right type of menu, whether the margin per item is good. There will be some items selling which have low margin. So when you remove them and add others, increase their price, you get higher margin. There's a lot of pilferages which happen in this. Control has to be very strong, opening stock, closing stock. So there's a lot of scope here where you can save money. Like for example, this has no scope, rental. It's fixed, it's fixed. You can't do much about it. Manpower, you need a minimum number of people, you can't do much about. Packaging is obviously, you need that according to the sale, So, and maybe utilities here, not saving energy, whatever you can do here. So I would say majorly these are the two very important areas where you can really save,
Awesome. So if you want to grow EBITDA, figure out a way to optimize food costs.
Food costs, yes.
And maybe a bit in
utilities as well.
Got it. No, this is very, very helpful. Thank you so much. No, this is very helpful. I think we've understood operating expenses in a very, very detailed manner. In chronology now I've understood what I need to get started in terms of capital. Now I've understood how to design my store, what are the elements I need to keep in mind, and operational expenses. Now I'm ready to launch, right? Now I'm ready to invite the customer in because mera sara decide ho chuka hai. Right. How do I invite, how do I put word out to the customer ki aao mera khana taste karo? What do I do for retention? On the marketing side, right? Once I've decided the story, branding, everything, what do I put out into the world?
So one thing I must say that if you choose a great ground floor location,
all you have
to do is put a board outside, we are open. We are open. And people start walking in.
Perfect.
And that's obviously that really helps when you have a great location to put a footfall walk in. But yes, social media now is the best platform. And these days, what is working well is UGC. The user-generated content works best. So you should create some user-generated content, create reels, put them on your page. You have to put some budget to push them, and those will, people will start sharing it and hopefully gives you that, attention. And if you have a great story and a name, it will attract attention. And ultimately, but I must say one thing: in the beginning, you might go slow with. Maybe if you don't do too much marketing and you start off with a good location, you can still grow with time. Why? Because of word of mouth. The best form of marketing in the world for restaurants is word of mouth. And for that, all you need to do is what I keep coming back to: customer focus. Focus on the customer experience. If he has a great experience, which includes the food, service, ambience, everything, if that whole experience is great, then he will get 10 more customers for you. And that is the best way to advertise or, get, to start to make a restaurant successful, word of mouth. But initially, a location, story, pushing it on social media, all of that helps.
Got it. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is the most important component to drive customers is actually location and customer experience. If you do that well, you'll probably get all the walk-ins and then they will drive word of mouth, which will then lead to an entire loop. And of course, once you want to go grow, you can have like UGC, social, do bloggers, etc. All of these things
Yes,
help.
so influencers do help now, and so we do get in the beginning we get good influencers to come and try our food and they
taste
share
it
about
out
it.
first.
Yes, it does help. Like I said, if you have a great story, people will start talking about you anyways. And if you know, and if you could push your own customers to share, that would be the best thing for you. So you know, you can actually in the beginning offer something, complimentary to your customer that please share about us on your social media, and that would be a great form of publicity for you.
Got it. No, this is very helpful. I think this really grasps the marketing side, which is very contingent on all the other things we've discussed. Awesome. I think this is helpful. One of the things that people think, and we've discussed this pehle, but maybe we can go into details, is like the challenges and why failure happens, right, in a restaurant. Like what are the mistakes to avoid? Because we all think of it like a glorified journey. Now you're successful, people talking about Daryaganj all across, but there's been a hard past, right? And you've come here after years of hard work. What are mistakes that I need to avoid as a first-time restaurateur?
Well, like I said, when I started my restaurant journey, I did, make a few mistakes as well, and I've learned from them and, applied all of that in Daryaganj. That's what we have had 15 successful restaurants without shutting any. So that maybe I've learned from my mistakes. So one thing is that number one, location. That's the most important. Never go compromise on location. You might think that I'm paying 5 lakhs rent here or 500,000 rent here. I'll take a location which is maybe a little off that and pay half the rent, 250,000. But I would still say pay 500,000 and go for that. Why? Because the difference of 250,000 you can cover from, a great visibility. You might have to end up spending 750,000 because you'll have 250 plus 500,000 for marketing. So I would say location. Never go compromise on a location, especially a first-time restaurateur. Never take a chance. Make sure the location is the best possible. Even if you are, you go wrong a bit in the beginning, you will be able to cover up later because the location will give you that advantage.
Perfect.
So that's number one. That's one learning, location. Second is be very clear about how regulations and everything works in India. Because I've seen a lot of people losing money because of it. Even I've lost because of that. It's like, sometimes you take a property, you don't know whether it's really actually enabled for, it's a commercial property or not. Is it? Even if it's a commercial property, will you get a license for a restaurant there? Will you get a license to run a bar there? A lot of different factors. So please make sure, I'm the co-chapter head of this association called National Restaurant Association of India, NRAI, and I'm the Delhi co-chapter head. So join an association like that, and come and take advice from us. We will guide you what are the basic regulations you need to ensure before you start a restaurant. So make sure you are aware of how everything works. Go and join an association like this. Then third is keep yourself properly capitalized. Don't think that, okay, I have this much money, I will be able to, the first day I will make profits. You will end up making losses maybe in the first 3-4 months. You might actually learn from your mistakes. You might be making good revenue. Lack of capital is a major reason why people shut down restaurants also. Maybe they could have lasted a few months more and would have survived, but they don't have the capital to, So that's one thing. And next one would be, I would say, focusing on the segments which are the most bigger segments, which are family-oriented segments, focusing on the larger family-oriented loyal segments, family-oriented affordable segments, which have less chances of, failure because of being such a big market,
Got it.
And last but not the least is obviously keeping, कहते हैं ना वो नियत साफ होनी चाहिए. Start with a great, intent. Keep your, integrity high. Keep, make sure everything, you go with a very positive intent. And this means also that not cutting corners, focus on every single stakeholder in the business, which is starting from your team, if you have any investors, the people you deal with, the vendors, and then most importantly, your customers. Obviously, starting from your investors, if you have any, your own team, your vendors, and then most importantly your customers. So giving them all a very great. I mean, never cut corners anywhere for any of them.
Yeah, no, that last point is especially important to mention. But thank you so much. I think these are all harsh learnings that people have to learn by spending years, and you've shared it with us. So if anybody, for everybody listening, I think this is a very, very strong cheat sheet almost. These are the things to avoid. You don't have a bad location, don't ignore regulations, don't have lack of capital, prepare in advance, don't mismanage funds, don't be in the wrong segment, and have the right attitude to make it successful.
Yes.
Awesome. This is very, very helpful, Amit. I think as we conclude, right, I think one of the final things is just like, let's say 1 year in, my restaurant's not working, right? I'm in that 70% failure rate. What should I do? So in, random things, we use pivot a lot. ये सारी चीजें बहुत बोलते हैं.
Right.
What do I do if I have opened my restaurant, I put in 2 crores, I put in 6-8 months of hard work, and 1 year in, it's not working. What do I do then?
See, normally it's very tough to revive a restaurant after 6-8 months if you've not done it right. But it's not that it's impossible. It is possible. Number one, maybe go to a experienced restaurateur and ask them to join hands with you and come and turn around the restaurant for you. It's happened before. I've seen a lot of people doing that.
Partnership.
Maybe if you have made a good infrastructure, you've spent already on the interiors, kitchen, everything you spent on, maybe with a small cosmetic change, you could change the concept, you could change the cuisine, and maybe get a experienced partner to come in, like a restaurateur who's already done it before. Maybe go with that's one thing you could do. And there's also another way of, selling the whole business as it is with the infrastructure. But to revive it, I would say that,
very difficult.
It's very tough to revive, but then maybe learn from whatever you maybe whatever you've done wrong, and maybe look at what is working around that area, what you can, really switch to or pivot to. But I would say still the best would be go with a partner who's an experienced restaurateur, get him on board, give him some equity, and then turn it around. That's what I would say.
Got it. No, that's super helpful for whoever's listening, is trying this and then maybe wants to figure it out in case it doesn't work out. As we end, I think, you're on this massive growth trajectory. We've, of course, all seen you on Shark Tank, which has popularized the business further, the taste further. You're currently in 4 cities, but going to be in 7 cities. What does the future look like for Daryaganj?
Well, future looks great. I mean, whenever we started off, I never thought we were going to reach 100 crore revenue. But I only started with that one restaurant. I'm going to open the Indian restaurant, and everything started happening step by step. It's like I never thought about it before. And so now that we are here, I think we see a 300 crore journey in the next 2.5 years to triple it to 300 crore. We've been almost at a 60% CAGR, 60% CAGR, and we've been consistently doing that. And I think looking at reaching a 300 crore run rate in 2.5 years with a lot of international cities adding into this. But like I said, the focus is Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and then we're opening Thailand. We want to get into UAE, Dubai. We want to get into London and Singapore. These are some of the countries we want to get into. And I'm saying that there is a huge scope in India already. So people might say that why do you want to go out of the country when you already see a big scope in India? We're just opening up a lot of different new markets for us for the future. Tomorrow, so I think, and also like a mission is to make sure our North Indian classic food is the most popular in the world and people love it. So a lot of people didn't know what classic North Indian cuisine is all about. It's not that heavy or over spicy food which we get a lot of places in the world.
Yeah.
We need to correct that and get the right Indian cuisine there.
No, that's the dream, and thankfully people like you are doing all the great work to make it happen. But this is incredible ambition, and hopefully every person watching this can dream like you and build more Daryaganjs, because we need Indian food to go to the world, Indian food to be consumed in great manners. But this is incredibly helpful. I think we've covered the entire playbook of starting our own restaurant. I have learned a ton, and if I had the money, which I don't, unfortunately, I would probably start a restaurant as well. I
would like to add on, I would like to add on one point here. Yes, there might be a lot of restaurateurs who have this dream to start a restaurant, but might not have the capital. So even if you don't have that 2 crores, maybe you just have, say, 20-30 lakh rupees, you can actually go and sell your idea to an investor. They might, but you make a great plan, make a great pitch deck, do a lot of research, and you can maybe find an investor to take your dream forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get a pitch deck from me next week.
Yeah, anytime.
No, but this is super helpful. Even if you don't have the capital, there are ways to finance it,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing. And that
I will
is
not
very
advise
helpful.
you to go for debt or sell your house. Don't do that.
Yeah, please don't. We don't encourage debt by any means, but there are ways to, alternative ways of financing it. Awesome. This has been really helpful, Amit. Thank you so much for sharing all of your trade secrets on how to build a restaurant. Do you have any final learnings for the audience that if I'm to start a restaurant, what have I missed right now that you can tell me further? What is the conclusion?
All I like to say is that only do it if you have the passion and you're ready to sacrifice a lot of your time and a lot of your maybe weekends working late hours. If you can do that, only then get into this business. And as far as the operational things are concerned, I've told you that be sure about the location. And the last thing is go with a great positive intent. Keep your integrity intact. गुटू भी कहते हैं ना वो अच्छी इंटेंशन से काम करोगे तो चलेगा
अच्छी चीजें होंगी फिर
बिल्कुल
Yes, no, perfect. I think
and
that
great,
is.
and it was great for me to come here and happy that I could share all of this with you and hope this helps in someone who's opening a restaurant, who's already opened a restaurant.
I'm sure.
And happy to help them. And again, they want to write to me, write to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer them.
Amit, I'm very curious to understand how did the name Daryaganj come about? What is the story there?
So that's what it is. So that's an interesting story. So मेरा बचपन का दोस्त, my childhood friend Raghav Jaggi, me and him were in school together in St. Columbus. We've known each other since we were like 4 years old, and we're quite old now. So हमने साथ में brand start किया था. And the idea behind the brand was, so Raghav's grandfather was the inventor of the two most popular dishes in the world, Butter Chicken Dal Makhani, the two most popular Indian dishes in the world. And ये story जब मुझे पता चली, in fact I knew the story, but someday we were talking, Raghav and me, a few years back, and said, your grandfather, he invented these dishes in an area called Daryaganj. So he invented these dishes in an area called Daryaganj. There was a restaurant there where he invented these dishes, and eventually he exited that restaurant later. But the legacy doesn't end there. So I said, Raghav, let's revive that legacy and let's get your grandfather's legacy back and let's tell the world about Butter Chicken Dal Makhani. अब उसके लिए इससे apt name क्या हो सकता था? Because pizza was invented in Naples, that butter chicken was invented in Daryaganj, so it has to be called Daryaganj. Butter chicken and dal makhani, both in fact, were invented in Daryaganj. So that's why we decided to call the brand Daryaganj.
Oh, wow. And that's how the legacy lives on, and that's how we get to taste the amazing dishes that, once your friends and co-founders' grandfather actually started. That is lovely. So that was how you can build your own restaurant, from uncovering insights on how much capital you need, to what is the operating expenditure, to the kind of senses you need to serve and ensure your customers have the best experience. That's what it takes to build a restaurant of your own, especially when the failure rate is 70%. Hopefully, you've learned how to build your own restaurant. That was Launch Codes by Masters Union, and we'll keep coming back to you with amazing businesses that are around you, but you don't know how to start yet want to. Keep tuning in for more such businesses. Thank you so much for watching.